Isokinetics. Let's take a deep dive into understanding what they are, the how-to in implementing, programming, and coaching them with your athletes, and the best practices to help make them your new competitive edge as a practitioner to get even better results for your athletes. So let's do it. So let's take a step back and understand simply just what isokinetics are. So iso means same, and kinetic means velocity. So the athlete is moving at the same velocity, or they are moving at a controlled or a fixed concentric speed limit. So you tell the motor or the machine how fast or slow, really, that the athlete can move, 0.1 meters a second, 0.2, 0.3, and the athlete cannot move faster than that no matter how hard they try. And because speed is limited or controlled, then force is what we get to measure, or that is the output of the exercise. And one of the also unique points about this is it's max force, but it's max force throughout the entire range of motion compared to something a little bit more traditional like an isometric, where the athlete is pushing as hard as possible in one joint angle or one kind of range of motion. The athlete gets to make as much force as possible throughout the entire exercise or the entire movement. And here are just some exercises, some visuals to help you kind of understand and wrap your head around what this is. And you can see how the athlete is trying as hard as possible to move as fast as possible. But again, the motor is sensing how much force they're making and is making equal and opposite amount to keep them at that speed. So super high force, high effort, high output with the simplicity of simply just picking what the velocity is for that range of motion. And let's take one last step back to really understand the what of isokinetics and the why and the value and why it's super beneficial for athletes. So if we understand the simple force-velocity relationship of muscles, we know that athletes can make the most force eccentrically, the least force super fast concentrically, and isokinetics fits somewhere in the middle where the concentric speed or the velocity is relatively slow, again, 0.2, 0.3 meters a second, so they can make crazy high amounts of force, but because you can only get isokinetics with a machine or a motor, we don't need any external load on the athlete to get this super high amount of force. All you need is a motor and a way to attach it to an athlete, and again, you can get these crazy high forces, no dumbbells, and no barbells needed. And starting out with your isokinetics, if you don't know where to start, first you have to pick, the exercise, but what velocity you want it at. And if you don't know what is good, what is bad, this is new, well, on the 1080 Sprint 2 itself, if you click on Isokinetic, the screen will pop up and do 2 to 3 reps of whatever exercise you want. The machine will measure that range of motion, so something smaller like shoulder external rotation, something bigger like a core lift or a chop, and based on the range of motion, it'll tell you what speed to use to get about 2.5 seconds of time under tension or 2.5 seconds to go through that range of motion. So small range of motion, slower velocities, bigger range of motion, higher velocities. Then on the 1080 tablet or the software itself, at the bottom for the concentric or resisted speed limit, just keep tapping all the way down to whatever velocity you want. Next, now that we have the velocity we want to work at for our isokinetics, how do you coach, cue, and actually start applying this with your athletes? And the one main coaching point is to ramp up from 0% effort up to 100% effort in the beginning of the range of motion, right? So if we're doing a shoulder external rotation, this first little bit, don't jerk into it first because the motor is set to move at a super slow speed, so you're not going to go anywhere. And second, it's just going to feel kind of awkward and jerky and not be very comfortable, kind of moving into a relatively immovable object, or again, that super slow speed limit. And with intensity as well, just because you can go max effort, or that's the ultimate end goal of these isokinetics, doesn't mean that you have to do that right away. Moving against isokinetic resistance or creating as much force as possible at this speed limit is a super unique thing if you've never done it before. It feels nothing like a traditional lift with a dumbbell or a barbell. So the athlete has to learn how to grind through a rep, the skill of working with the resistance and the speed limit instead of just trying to work through it as fast as possible, again, like with a dumbbell or a barbell. So Start out, hey, this is a 5 out of 10 effort, 50% effort. Just feel it out. Okay, cool. Now let's do a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And again, work your way up and learn how to create force against isokinetics instead of just ripping it 100% right away. And for the results, we'll actually go to the software first so we can visualize kind of what we're doing. So on the top, the graph is force, so how much force the athlete's making over time or throughout the range of motion of the rep. So the on-ramp from 0 to 100, then throughout the majority of the range of motion, it's all out. And then when they get a little weaker at the end, obviously force kind of drops off. And we get 3 main variables. Number 1 is the peak amount of force. So that's basically at one instant in time, how much force can they make? That's the circle at the top of the graph. We have the average force, or that's the area under the curve over the entire range of motion. And then also, if this is a unilateral exercise, we can get a measure of symmetry or asymmetry, or just comparing how much force does the left versus the right make. On the 1080 Sprint 2 itself, at the top, when you can control the display metrics, well, it's concentric only, so eccentric is not an option. Force is the only variable because speed you control and power consequently is not a variable. And then you just get to pick between average or peak force. So progressing your isokinetics over time, well, for the exercise that you're doing, the velocity will stay the same, obviously. For intensity, well, once you kind of on-ramp and work up to it, intensity will always be at 100% or max effort. And if it's something like rehab, a good quote of Matt Price, one of the longest kind of tenured 1080 users, he says, pull with no pain. So you can use something else like subjective effort, or again, go with no pain to guide your intensity over time. And then last, volume. How much are you doing? How many sets? How many reps? Or think about kind of time under tension. If we know every rep is 2.5 seconds, well, then consequently, when we add more reps and sets, we're just accumulating more time of max force on those muscles. And the best practices, so with Isokinetics, because all of our products have this type of resistance or this ability to create this type of resistance, what is the best one? Because that's why we have different products, because they do better things differently. So the 1080 Sprint 2 is going to be more appropriate for isolated joint movements, kind of smaller joint movements, or open chain, lower kind of force outputs, lighter rehab. And on the flip side, the 1080 cable, which is made for kind of higher amounts of force, this is going to be closed chain movements. You are making way, way more force. So this is going to be more of your traditional kind of strength training and chasing truly super high amounts of force. And last, 2 more pieces of best practice is not only having on-ramping in the teaching and learning kind of the day of with your isokinetics, but it can also be an on-ramping phase. Just how you wouldn't work up to a max squat simply just in 2 weeks. Well, you don't have to work up to a 10 out of 10 effort on your second session doing isokinetics. So on-ramp to teach, but also on-ramp kind of in that first phase as well. And last is to be intentional with technique. Again, because this resistance is super unique, the forces are super high, the body is going to find ways to kind of cheat or work around it that's kind of easier instead of putting super high forces on every single muscle. So be careful that the athlete isn't kind of compensating or moving their body around to kind of get around the resistance, but they are executing it with super good technique and making super high force throughout the entire range of motion. So what next? We have some awesome resources on our YouTube channel. We have a presentation from our Swiss mad scientist, I call him Jan Seiler, going through how he implements eccentric overload, but also isokinetics to build strength for his athletes. And we have an awesome webinar with Stefan Ogren. I definitely did not say that right. One of the first 1080 cable users in the world, but also in Sweden, and how he is using that with a world champion powerlifter to get even kind of next level results, pairing motorized resistance with more traditional kind of lifting, obviously, for powerlifting. So you just got to do it. You have to feel how fast is too fast for a core rotation or how slow is too slow. You have to figure out the feel of it yourself and how to coach and cue it for your athletes. So you just got to do it, feel it, apply it. We have our website. We have all of our social media handles. So let us know how it goes, and happy training.